The call came at 2:47 a.m. Dispatch, flat and professional. Detective Chen, we have a body, female, mid-30s, suspicious circumstances. 4250 Riverside Drive, apartment 12B. I was already reaching for my badge and weapon when the address registered. My breath stopped. That was 3 blocks from where my sister lived. Victim ID? I asked, my voice steady despite the ice spreading through my chest. Jennifer Morrison, age 34. Neighbor called it in. Not my sister. The relief lasted exactly 2 seconds before the other detail hit me. Morrison. I knew that name. My sister had mentioned a Jennifer at her building. The one who'd started jogging with her in the mornings. The one my brother in law Marcus had called too friendly. I didn't say any of that to dispatch. I just confirmed I was en route and started driving through the empty pre dawn streets, already knowing this case was about to get complicated in ways I'd spent 12 years as a detective learning to avoid. I have never told my sister what I documented about Marcus during their engagement. Not when they were dating, not at their wedding, and definitely not during the 5 years since. Some people think silence means you don't see the problem. My silence meant I saw everything and was waiting for proof. Because suspicion without evidence destroys families, evidence without premature accusation protects them. My training officer taught me that distinction my first week in homicide. She was the kind of cop who believed in letting investigations unfold naturally, in documenting patterns before drawing conclusions, in understanding that sometimes the worst thing you can do is confront someone too early. When I was younger, fresh out of the academy with my detective shield still shiny, I thought that approach was too passive. Now I know it's the only way to build cases that actually stick. She never pushed suspects into corners before gathering everything. She just watched, noted, preserved evidence, and waited for the moment when all the pieces aligned so perfectly that denial became impossible. When my sister brought Marcus home for the first time, there was nothing specific I could point to, just instinct. The way he controlled conversations without seeming to. How he subtly corrected small details my sister mentioned, reframing stories so he looked slightly better. The way he asked about her schedule with more precision than casual interest required. I didn't say anything. I smiled, shook his hand, and started what I call a background observation file. Not official, just mental notes. Later, after they got engaged, those notes became more formal. Not in any police database, just in a private log I kept at home, time-stamped and detailed. Conversations where he isolated Amy from friends she'd had for years. Times he helped her make decisions that somehow always aligned with his preferences. The way he referred to her ex-boyfriend with a particular edge, like competition that had never really ended in his mind. The financial control that appeared gradually, his name added to her accounts to simplify things, her credit cards slowly replaced with ones he monitored. My sister thought she'd found a partner. I was watching someone establish dominance so methodically it looked like love. But I couldn't prove harm, couldn't point to bruises or threats or anything that would justify pulling my sister aside and saying what I really thought. So I stayed close. I checked in regularly. I kept documentation of concerning patterns, and I waited. The way you wait when you know someone is dangerous, but they haven't committed the crime yet. The crime scene at Jennifer Morrison's apartment confirmed my worst instincts. I stood in the doorway, booties over my shoes, latex gloves on, taking in the presentation before stepping inside. The victim lay in her living room, positioned in a way that immediately told me this wasn't random, too staged, too controlled. The furniture wasn't disturbed the way it would be in a struggle, nothing obviously taken in a robbery. Just Jennifer, lifeless on the floor, with bruising around her neck consistent with strangulation. The crime scene unit was already documenting everything, photographer moving methodically, evidence techs marking and cataloging. The medical examiner crouched by the body, making preliminary observations. Detective Chen, she acknowledged without looking up. Ligature marks, petechiae in the eyes, likely manual strangulation based on the pattern. Time of death approximately 8 to 10 p.m. yesterday. I noted the timeline, scanning the apartment. Clean, organized, no signs of forced entry. Any evidence of sexual assault? Won't know until the autopsy, but no obvious indicators at the scene. My partner, Detective Williams, appeared next to me. He'd worked homicide for 15 years, had clearance rates that made captains jealous. He didn't know about my connection to this address yet. Neighbors hear anything? He asked generally. One of the uniforms spoke up. Neighbor across the hall called it in, said she heard voices around 8:30, male and female, then nothing. Checked on the victim this morning when she didn't show for their planned breakfast. Found her and called 911. The male voice, I said carefully. Did the neighbor identify it? Said it sounded familiar, maybe someone from the building, but she couldn't be specific. Williams looked at me. You all right? You seem tense. Long night, I said, which wasn't a lie. I moved deeper into the apartment, documenting with my eyes before I'd even touch anything. The kitchen had wine glasses in the sink, 2 of them. Bottle on the counter, Italian red, expensive. The label faced out, positioned almost deliberately. I photographed it from multiple angles. In the bedroom, the bed was made. Neat, undisturbed. Whoever killed Jennifer didn't do it there. The bathroom showed evidence of recent use, makeup still out, hair products arranged on the counter. Woman interrupted in her evening routine, not someone who'd gone to bed yet. Back in the living room, I stood where the killer would have stood, looked at the angles, the approach vectors. This was personal. Whoever did this knew Jennifer, was invited in, sat with her long enough to share wine, then turned violent in a way that suggested either rage or cold control. Chen, Williams called from the entryway. Building security footage? Checking it now, a uniform confirmed. My stomach tightened. If Marcus had been here, if cameras caught him, this case would detonate my family in ways I'd spent years trying to prevent. I stepped away, pulled out my phone, sent a carefully worded text to my sister. Morning, you okay? Just checking in. Dots appeared immediately. She was awake. She replied, Yeah, why? Up early? Work call, I typed. Miss you. Talk later? She sent a heart emoji and nothing else. Professional Chen, the detective, noted that Marcus's whereabouts last night were now a question I needed to answer officially. Sister Chen, the woman who'd watched Amy build a life with someone I'd never trusted, felt the weight of what might be coming. I spent the next 6 hours doing what I always did: thorough, methodical, by the book. Williams and I canvassed the building, interviewed neighbors, reviewed security footage from the lobby and hallways. The camera system was decent, but not comprehensive. Coverage of the main entrance showed Jennifer coming home at 6:45 p.m. alone. At 7:20 p.m., a male figure entered, baseball cap head down, hands in pockets, intentionally avoiding clear camera angles. He knew where the cameras were. Building residents would know that. The figure's build matched half the men in the city, but the walk, something about the gait, made my jaw clench. At 9:17 p.m., the same figure exited. Same cap, same avoidance of cameras. No footage of him actually entering or leaving Jennifer's apartment specifically. Cameras didn't cover that hallway. We pulled the building's access log. Everyone who swiped their key fob was recorded. Between 7 and 7:30 p.m., 3 residents accessed the building. One was a woman returning from work, ruled out by timing and gender. One was a delivery person, verified through external records. The third was labeled simply guest, authorized by Morrison, J. Shirt 12B. No name. Jennifer had buzzed someone in remotely, someone she was expecting. Williams looked at me across the precinct conference room where we'd spread out our initial findings. So she knew him, invited him up, had wine, then something went wrong. Or went exactly according to plan, I said quietly. This feels controlled. Domestic? Or someone close enough to her life to have access? I didn't say what I was thinking, that Jennifer lived 3 blocks from my sister, that Amy had mentioned her jogging partner by name, that Marcus had made comments about Jennifer being too friendly with concerning frequency. Instead, I said, we need to build a victimology. Who was Jennifer Morrison? Who were her friends, her exes, her conflicts? Williams nodded. I'll take employment and financials. You take personal relationships. It was the logical division of labor. It also meant I'd be the one discovering if Marcus's name appeared anywhere in Jennifer's life. The next 48 hours were intensive. We worked the case the way we always did, running down every lead, interviewing everyone connected to Jennifer's life. Her coworkers described her as friendly, professional, recently promoted. No workplace conflicts, no concerning behavior. Her ex-boyfriend had moved to Seattle 6 months ago. Alibi checked out. Her family lived 2 states away, devastated but not suspicious of anyone specific. Her friends painted a picture of someone whose life was quiet, stable, maybe a little lonely, but handling it well. She'd started jogging to meet people in her neighborhood. That's where my sister's name came up in an interview, casually, from one of Jennifer's gym friends. She'd mentioned jogging with someone named Amy from her building, said it was nice to have a workout partner. I documented it in my notes, kept my face neutral, kept interviewing. By the time we'd mapped Jennifer's last 2 weeks, a pattern emerged. She'd been pulling back from a friendship with someone. Her text to a friend mentioned weird energy from a neighbor, and I think someone's husband is jealous of my friendship with his wife. The texts were vague, no names, but they were dated progressive, starting about 6 weeks before her death. The last one was 3 days before she died. Amy canceled our run again, third time. I think he doesn't want her around me. My hands were steady when I photographed that text exchange. Years of training kept my breathing even, my expression professional. But inside, everything had just locked into place with terrible clarity. I stepped out of the precinct, called my sister from my car. She answered on the first ring, sounding tired. "Hey," she said, "everything okay? You've been quiet." "Just busy with a case. Amy, I need to ask you something. Were you friends with Jennifer Morrison?" Silence. Then, carefully, "Yes. I mean, we used to jog together. Why?" "When did you stop?" "A few weeks ago. Marcus thought it was taking up too much time in the mornings. He wanted me home more. Why are you asking about Jennifer?" I chose my words precisely. "She's dead, Amy. I'm investigating her murder." I heard her breath catch, heard the moment of shock. "What?" "No. When?" "Wednesday night. I can't give you details, but I need to know. Did Marcus know Jennifer?" The pause before she answered told me everything. He met her a few times. In the building lobby, when he'd come home and we were heading out for runs, he thought she was too pushy about my time, kept suggesting I make other friends. Why? Did he ever seem angry about your friendship with her? No, not angry. Just, he said she seemed like she was trying to get too close too fast, said it made him uncomfortable. The trained detective in me was cataloging every word, noting the language Marcus had used, the isolation tactics disguised as protective concern. The sister in me was screaming, "Amy, I need you to think carefully. Where was Marcus Wednesday night?" Another pause, longer. "He said he was working late. He does that sometimes. He got home around 10. Why? You can't think, I'm just gathering information. This is routine. He wouldn't hurt anyone. You know that." Did I? I'd known he was controlling. I'd known he was isolating her. I'd documented years of concerning behavior. But murder? That was a different threshold, unless it wasn't. Unless the same psychology that needed to control, that saw other relationships as threats, that methodically removed anyone who might give Amy outside perspective, unless that same psychology could escalate when someone wouldn't stay away. "I need to verify everyone's whereabouts," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "It's standard procedure. Can you ask Marcus where exactly he was Wednesday evening?" "This is insane. You're investigating my husband? I'm investigating a murder. And right now, I need to verify timelines for everyone who knew the victim." I heard her breathing, heard her struggling between loyalty to Marcus and the reality of what I was asking. He was at the office. He had a deadline. He showed me the work when he got home. "Which office? I'll need to verify with building security." "Why are you doing this?" Her voice broke slightly. "Because someone killed Jennifer, and I need to find out who. If Marcus has an alibi, this conversation ends here." She hung up. I sat in my car, staring at the precinct building, knowing I'd just crossed a line I'd been trying to avoid for 5 years. But if I was right, If Marcus had killed Jennifer because she represented connection Amy might have outside his control, then my sister was living with someone far more dangerous than I'd ever documented. I went back inside, pulled Williams into a conference room, closed the door. I need to disclose a potential conflict, I said. He looked up from his computer, immediately serious. Talk to me. The victim was friends with my sister. My brother in law knew her, and I need to interview him as a potential witness, possibly more. Williams processed that. How close were they? Your sister and the victim? They jogged together until a few weeks ago. My sister says her husband wanted her home more, so she stopped. And the husband? He's in the timeline. Wednesday night says he was working late. I don't have independent verification yet. Williams let out a slow breath. How long have you known about this connection? I suspected when I heard the address, confirmed it this morning. And you didn't recuse yourself. I didn't know the extent of the connection until I worked the victimology. He studied me. You should recuse now. I should, but I also know things about Marcus that might be relevant. Behavioral patterns, control issues, isolation tactics, things I've documented over years of watching him with my sister. Jesus, Chen. I know, that's why I'm telling you now. Before we interview him, you take the lead, I observe, but I need to be in that room. I need to see how he responds. Williams considered it. Finally, we do this by the book, everything documented, and if there's any indication you're compromised, you're out immediately. I nodded. We brought Marcus in the next morning for a voluntary witness interview. Voluntary meant he could leave anytime. Also meant we couldn't record without his consent, which he declined. Standard for someone who watched too many crime shows and thought he knew his rights. He arrived in a suit, carrying a briefcase, looking every bit the successful consultant he claimed to be. Shook Williams's hand, nodded at me with something that might have been surprise or calculation. Detective Chen didn't realize you'd be here. Amy said you were working a case. Homicide investigation, I said neutrally. We appreciate you coming in. Williams led him through the basics: name, address, occupation, relationship to the victim. Marcus was smooth, practiced. He expressed shock about Jennifer's death, said he'd only met her a handful of times in passing. She seemed nice enough, he said. Amy enjoyed jogging with her. But that stopped? Williams asked. Yeah, Amy's schedule got busy. Work stuff. You know how it is. Your wife indicated you expressed concerns about the friendship, I said carefully. His eyes flicked to me. Concerns might be strong. I just thought Amy was spreading herself thin, working full time, trying to maintain this running schedule. It was wearing on her. I suggested she scale back. Did you ever speak to Jennifer directly about this? Williams asked. No. Why would I? It was Amy's decision. What were you doing Wednesday evening? Williams's tone stayed conversational. Working. I had a client deadline Thursday morning, was at the office until about 9:30. Which office? Baxter Consulting downtown. I can provide security logs if you need them. We'll need to verify that, Williams said. Standard procedure. Marcus smiled slightly. Of course, I understand you need to be thorough. I watched him during this exchange. His body language was perfect, open, cooperative, no defensive posturing, no signs of stress. Either he was innocent or he'd practiced this. Did you know Jennifer well enough to have her contact information? I asked. No, like I said, we only met in passing. Did you ever visit her apartment? Never. I don't think I even knew which one was hers. Williams made notes, asked a few more routine questions, then thanked Marcus for his time. He left, looking relaxed, confident. The moment the door closed, Williams turned to me. He's too clean. I know. Nobody's that calm unless they're either innocent or prepared. He's prepared, I said. He's always prepared. That's how he operates. Calculated, controlled, always 3 steps ahead of the conversation. We pulled Marcus's security records from Baxter Consulting. They showed him swiping into the building at 6:45 p.m. Wednesday. No swipe out recorded. Could have left through the loading dock, Williams noted. Security there is lighter. Or he never went to work at all, I said. Swiped in, left immediately. We requested footage from Baxter's internal cameras. It took 2 days to get them, time during which I barely slept, checking in on Amy through texts while watching her responses become shorter, more guarded. She knew what I was thinking, even if I wasn't saying it. The footage confirmed what I suspected. Marcus swiped in at 6:45 p.m., appeared on the elevator camera going to his floor, exited the elevator, walked toward his office. Never appeared on cameras again that night. No record of him actually working, no lights turned on in his office suite, nothing. At 9:40 p.m., he swiped out through the main exit, 2 hours and 55 minutes unaccounted for, during which Jennifer Morrison died. Williams and I sat in the precinct conference room, timeline spread across the whiteboard. It's thin, Williams said. Building access shows he could have been there. Time frame matches. But we don't have him on camera entering Jennifer's building, no physical evidence placing him in her apartment. Yet, I said, we reprocess the scene. We look for transfer evidence, touch DNA, anything he might have left. And your sister? Will be devastated, I said quietly. But if Marcus killed Jennifer, I can't protect Amy by ignoring it. I protect her by finding proof. We spent the next week methodically building the case. The crime lab found DNA under Jennifer's fingernails. She'd scratched her attacker. Male DNA, sample sent for processing. We re-interviewed Jennifer's neighbors with Marcus's photo. One woman, 3 doors down, identified him as someone she'd seen in the building before. He seemed nice enough, she said, held the door open for me once. We pulled Marcus's phone records. The night of the murder, his phone pinged off a cell tower 3 blocks from the crime scene at 8:15 p.m. He'd told us he was at his office downtown. The tower data contradicted that. Williams looked at the map, at the timeline, at the DNA results that came back preliminary positive for male DNA. We have enough for a warrant, he said. I nodded, feeling the weight of what came next. We arrested Marcus on a Thursday morning, showed up at his office with uniformed officers and a warrant. He looked stunned for exactly 3 seconds before the mask dropped back into place. There's been a mistake, he said calmly. I've told you everything I know. You lied about your whereabouts, Williams said. You lied about knowing the victim, and we have physical evidence placing you at the scene. They read him his rights, cuffed him, walked him out. I stood back, professional, documenting, not letting myself think about the call I'd have to make to Amy. She called me first. What did you do? Her voice shaking, furious, and terrified at once. Amy, he's been arrested for murder. You arrested him. The evidence, you couldn't just leave it alone, could you? You never liked him, so you built a case out of nothing, and now he's sitting in jail. Amy, stop. My voice hard enough that she went silent. The evidence is solid. Phone records place him at the crime scene. DNA under Jennifer's fingernails matches his profile. His alibi fell apart the moment we verified it. This isn't about me not liking him. This is about him killing someone. You're wrong. Amy, I need you to listen to me. I've been documenting concerning behavior from Marcus for 5 years. Control, isolation, gaslighting. I didn't say anything because I had no proof of harm. Now I have proof of murder, and I need you to understand that if he killed Jennifer because she was your friend, because she represented connection outside his control, then you were never safe. Silence on the line, breathing, then small and broken. You're lying. You have to be lying. I have the case files. I have the evidence reports. I have recorded interviews. And Amy, I need you to think. Think about how he controlled your schedule, your friendships, your money. Think about how every time you got close to someone, he found reasons for you to pull back. Jennifer wasn't pulling back. She kept trying to be your friend, and now she's dead. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Then, I need to see the evidence. You can't. You're too close to the case. But when this goes to trial, you'll see everything. And Amy, I need you to be safe. I need you to stay somewhere else, with mom, with friends, anywhere but that apartment. I hate you for this, she said, then hung up. I stood in the empty precinct hallway, phone in hand, knowing that even if I'd saved her life, she might never forgive me. The case moved forward. Marcus pled not guilty, hired expensive lawyers who pointed to the lack of camera footage placing him definitively in Jennifer's apartment. They attacked the DNA evidence, questioned the timeline, suggested the investigation had been biased from the start because of my relationship to the accused. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I testified on day 4, keeping my answers precise, professional, detached. The defense attorney tried to paint me as vindictive, as someone who'd never accepted my sister's marriage and used my position to destroy it. Williams's testimony corroborated mine. The evidence spoke for itself. Phone records, DNA, the lies about his whereabouts, the pattern of control that matched textbook intimate partner violence psychology. The prosecution brought in a domestic violence expert who explained gaslighting, isolation, the escalation from psychological control to physical violence when control is threatened. My sister sat in the courtroom every day, watching me, watching Marcus, trying to reconcile the man she'd married with the evidence being presented. On day 17, the defense called Amy to the stand. She testified about Marcus being a good husband, devoted, maybe protective, but never violent. She said I'd always been suspicious of him, that I'd never given their relationship a fair chance. It hurt to watch, but I understood. She was grieving the life she thought she had, the man she thought she knew. The jury deliberated for 2 days. When they came back, I wasn't in the courtroom. I was in my car in the parking lot, unable to watch the verdict being read. Williams called me guilty, murder in the first degree. I closed my eyes. Relief and devastation in equal measure. That evening, I drove to my mother's house where Amy had been staying. She answered the door, her face exhausted and older than it should have been. "Can I come in?" I asked quietly. She stepped aside. We sat in the living room, silence heavy between us. "I know you think I destroyed your life," I said finally, "but Amy, he killed someone whose only crime was being your friend. And if I hadn't investigated this, if I'd let my relationship with you compromise the case, he might have gotten away with it. And the next time someone got too close to you, it might have happened again." She stared at the floor. "When did you know?" "Know he was dangerous? Years ago. Know he was a murderer the moment I saw the crime scene and recognized the address. You never said anything because I had suspicions, not proof. And I couldn't destroy your marriage based on instinct. I could only document and wait. So you waited for someone to die." The words landed like punches. "I waited for proof that would stand up in court. I'm sorry that proof came the way it did. I'm sorry Jennifer died. But Amy, I can't be sorry for stopping him." She looked at me then, eyes red and exhausted. "What do I do now?" "You heal. You rebuild. You learn to trust your instincts again, and you understand that none of this was your fault. Will you help me?" The question was small, uncertain, like she was afraid I'd say no after everything. "Always," I said. "That's never been in question." 3 months later, I was back at my desk reviewing case files when my phone buzzed. "Amy, thank you. 2 words. Not forgiveness, not yet, but acknowledgement, understanding, the beginning of healing." I texted back, "I love you. Always have, always will." Outside my office window, the city moved through its evening routines. Somewhere out there, families were figuring out their own complicated dynamics, their own secrets and suspicions and silent observations. And somewhere, a detective was watching, documenting, waiting for the right moment to act. Because that's what we do. We wait for proof. We build cases that stand. We protect people even when they don't want to be protected. And we carry the weight of the evidence we gather, knowing that sometimes the truth destroys the very people we're trying to save. If you're listening to this and something about it feels familiar, if you've ever watched someone you love fall under the control of someone dangerous, I want you to know this. Trust your instincts. Document what you see. And understand that sometimes love means letting evidence speak louder than loyalty. Have you ever had to investigate someone in your own family? Would you have done what I did? Leave a comment below and tell me where you're listening from. We share stories like this every day, stories about difficult choices, professional duty, and protecting the people we love even when they can't see the danger. If you don't want to miss the next one, subscribe and stay with us. Let's keep finding the truth together.